Hey, I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married.
With children.
We're married 2 years now.
Blended for 11.
Like a margarita.
Yeah, baby, like a margarita.
And you're listening to the Everything Always podcast.
Want to tell them why we do this?
We do this because blending families isn't easy. There's step-parenting, co-parenting, his ex,
Her ex.
schedules, sibling rivalry,
Money issues.
custody issues.
Dating and relationship issues.
It's a whole lot of stuff.
Blended with a whole lot of good stuff.
And we're here to talk about all of it because we've done most of it.
We might not be experts, but we've learned a lot.
And we're still learning, and we want to share that with you.
Thanks for joining. Now let's go.
Well, hello, Everything Always listeners, and welcome to another episode of Everything Always.
Yeah, today's going to be a super fun one. We're talking about something that should be a pretty interesting topic.
I think it's going to be pretty interesting. We're talking about narcissists.
We're hoping that this topic doesn't relate to you. Like, you're not like, man, I feel really connected to what they're talking about because I just might be a narcissist.
You know what? I don't think narcissists actually can claim themselves you know what? I think it takes a special kind that can actually say, yes, you know what, I am. But from what I've learned is you can't call out a narcissist.
Oh, it's like you just can't see it.
Because they'll turn
deny.
around and say, actually, you are. Okay, we're getting like
We're
3
jumping
quarters
right
into
into
the
it.
interview and we haven't even started yet. So welcome. And yeah, this is something that has been brewing for a while. We hear the word narcissism and narcissist thrown around a lot, not just amongst friends, but especially in the world of divorce and breakups.
For sure. I think actually in all things where people are categorized as a narcissist when they really should be sometimes, but a lot of times when they're not.
Yeah.
Like you're at Starbucks, you're waiting to like get your coffee and the person's kind of slow and they don't like say you're welcome when they hand it to you. And you're like, that freaking narcissist.
Okay. Well,
all right, maybe that's a bad example, but okay, go ahead.
So, okay, I'm going to give the Mayo Clinic's definition of a narcissist, and they'll actually define it as a personality disorder. And there's some doctors that say it's not a disorder in terms of a disease, like
it's not something you're born with.
Right. So a lot of people say that it is not something that you are born with.
It's environmentally
yes,
created.
There are things that can happen in your upbringing or certain circumstances that happen that kind of is that perfect environment to
create
the
perfect narcissist.
There you go. So this is how it's defined. They defined narcissistic personality disorder as one of the several types of personality disorders, a mental condition in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration, troubled relationships, and a lack of empathy for others. So the reason we're doing this episode is that we wanted to have a conversation, Mike and I, about what this is, how to deal with it if it is a personality that you are dealing with. And in order to do that, I was like, I want to really do some research and see what's out there, because I do feel like some people may unfairly get judged or called out as being a quote unquote narcissist, or they have the narcissism personality disorder. And then at other times I can see, yeah, you know what? Those are the characteristics. If these are the characteristics that people are saying narcissists have, then I could see how that person might be one. So I just wanted to go into that because I do see it thrown around. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? I know you really don't like what that person did to you.
But they're not a narcissist.
And
maybe you really are.
Okay, so here are things that people will say, right? He's a narcissist because he's in love with himself and only cares about what promotes his success. Oh, she acts so charming and wants a ton of attention, so she's a narcissist. Those are the type of things that you hear. Oh, he only cares about himself. She only cares about herself. So there's confusion. I think traits like being charismatic, successful, goal-oriented, wanting to succeed in your career, top performers. Those are things that will be associated with narcissists. But at the same time, these are also just traits, and some will argue healthy traits that humans have just because they're motivated to do well in life. And so before labeling someone as a narcissist, I wanted to look at some of the key identifiers that we can all look at before labeling someone a narcissist. And at the same time in this episode, talk about like, what are those key characteristics? And by the way, this is going to be something that we continue the conversation on. Today, we're mostly focusing on what are those characteristics, not necessarily how to deal with it, because that will be a whole other episode. And I'm learning a ton of good things on how to deal with that. But really first getting clear, that first step, getting clear on, is somebody an actual narcissist that you think is? I think that in the research that I've done, there are people that are more driven to success than others. I think we know that just in people that
personality,
you meet, a personality
style, right?
thing.
There's people that just are driven to want to succeed. And there's some people that just don't care that much about that. They're interested in other things. And it's not necessarily even a bad thing. They just might be more into something that's not their bag, right? They want to have more peace or relaxation or,
Yeah. I mean, some people, will be called a workaholic. Some people will say you're obsessed with fitness and health. Some people will say, oh my gosh, she's always concerned about her hair and her makeup and things like that.
She's vain. She must be a narcissist.
She must be vain. She must be a narcissist. But having those certain traits doesn't necessarily make a narcissist. Just because they are into certain aspects of their life and want to be successful just doesn't mean that they're a narcissist. But some of these behaviors can get extreme and people can get obsessive, but again, doesn't merit the narcissist label. So a big one is the desire for power, the desire to influence others. And I have seen this a lot, especially with influencers. There's social media influencers, there's speakers that really do have the power to influence. And some of them will take that in a really, really good, positive way. And some of them can take that in a negative way, as we've seen with dictators and, certain political leaders, that it can be frightening. But just because you do have the desire for power and the desire to influence others, again, doesn't make you a narcissist. It is probably common. It definitely is common in those type influencers and leaders to see that, oh, that person turns out
I want
is
to
a
go
narcissist.
off on the whole dictator narcissist
I know, right?
Topic, but I'm gonna wait on that because I know you're getting to what are the traits of a narcissist.
Yeah,
I know that's coming.
Well, I would like to be. By the way, you might hear some noises because
Today's podcast is coming live from an Airbnb basement in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yes, it is.
And there happens to be little feet running around above us.
There's little feet. So that you might hear some noise. But here's what I would like to say. Here's what I would ask. I would like for us to agree, in order to continue in this conversation, that what are some things that are healthy for us humans? And I think that I think we both think that some of these things are to love ourselves, to feel that we matter, to feel free to express our likes, our dislikes, our wants, our needs, to feel understood, to get attention and appreciation and acknowledgement, to feel admired. These are natural things that we seek as humans pretty much from the moment that we're born.
Those are all good things. Those are the things that will make you feel adjusted in society, that are going to make you feel accepted.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even if you're getting those things as a child, it's just a human thing that you seek that. You love we like to feel appreciated. We want to feel loved. It's a good thing to
feel safe,
love ourselves.
To have that security feeling, that desired, comfortable feeling.
Right. And some of these things can get exaggerated. And that's when people start to see somebody else is doing something just for themselves, then you start to go, well, wait a minute here. So some things we wanted to talk about were the significant traits of what an actual narcissist looks like.
Are you going to give us some good examples?
I will give some examples. Let's run through these and then we can give some examples. And then I want to share some other information that from someone that I've been following that I think is super valuable. So first, significant traits here. There's about 4 of them. So is this person causing stress in one or more areas of life? So looking at different areas of life, is there stress in terms of relationship? Is there stress financially? Is there stress with other people in work? Look at that part. Is that person causing stress in other areas of life?
Intentionally causing stress for their own personal gain?
Could be. I think it's more just is that person causing stress in these areas?
Okay.
Do you know, whether they're doing it intentionally or not? I'm sure there is some type of subconscious
self-motivating
thing it's just kind of
to achieve something better for themselves. It's a selfish stress.
Right. I mean, you think of like certain conflicts that are coming up and gosh, that person consistently is causing stress during every meeting at work. That person is consistently causing stress whenever the family is together. That person is consistently causing stress in our marriage. That person is consistently causing stress when it comes to our finances and making decisions, things like that. So that's just like one, okay, maybe I'm going to start to think about this.
Trait number 1, looking for people that cause stress.
Mm-hmm. Okay, number 2, for me, I think this is the loudest, biggest one because this is what I hear everywhere, is a total lack of empathy for others. So a narcissist will look at someone who has empathy for someone else and view them as weak. They will appear to have the ability to empathize when they want to impress someone or to get something in return, but they genuinely don't feel happy for others and others' success. They actually will feel resentful when their victim, and we'll talk about later who the victim is, are getting positive attention. If their victims are getting positive attention, they don't like it. They feel resentful. And they don't see working together as an option. That is big. It's not like we do this together.
Or even if they are working together, it's really just, I'll work and play nice for now until I can advance above you. I don't want the best for you. I want the best for myself.
Yes. They will act as if they want to work together, which is really a form of manipulation because they don't actually understand what it's like to work together as a team or have a partnership. It's very one-sided. And that's because of that lack of empathy. They're not thinking about how another person feels.
Yeah, they really don't care.
But they're very good at acting like...
Or disguising it.
They do, yes.
Yeah.
So, people that have to give gifts, do something kind for somebody else, but let everybody else know about it. I need to make sure that everybody sees what I did because it's
It's the cousin of charity, right?
Right. Okay. And then this one is a big one. And I believe you and I I would say undoubtedly, especially reading these characteristics, we have known people in our lives, different various forms of relationships. We've experienced these traits.
Absolutely.
So some of these things I've seen,
I think as we're going through this, people are probably going like, wait a second.
Yeah.
If these are the characteristics of a narcissist, I think I might know someone.
Yeah. You probably do.
Hopefully you're not thinking, I think I might be a narcissist.
So this one is a big one too. And narcissists will feel the need to ridicule others so that they can feel worthy. So this is how they think. They think that you are either on the top or the bottom, either superior or inferior. Again, you're not a team. You're not together. It's about you making me feel that I'm superior. And if you are making me feel inferior, then I will say all the negative things and do all the negative things.
So watch out for people that are putting other people down in order to make themselves look better.
Yes.
Or that talk negative about other people.
Right.
Or that run people, that whole kind of water cooler thing where they're, talking behind other people's backs and trying to make you trying to portray someone in a negative light.
Right.
Characteristic of
Right.
a narcissist.
Here's the thing though, and I want to continue on this one, but I would say, I think it is natural that people gossip or people will talk about something that they are upset about. This is what I would say to think about. There are people that say, I'm really upset because this person said this about me and it really hurt my feelings. Now, you're expressing that because you feel the need you want empathy from somebody else. You're feeling upset about a situation. But if you are now trying to spread that so that you can gain, so that you can be on top, then it's like, oh, that's a characteristic that
ding,
is
ding, ding.
Right. That's that whole superior, inferior thing. And the thing about a narcissist is that their whole game in life is to be superior. Their whole game in life is to be superior. They don't care how they get there. It is about them being on top.
And the way they feel, and they'll do pretty much anything to get that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is pretty much an obsession to be.
That's right. Put other people down, gain control, manipulate your mind.
Yes. And so now look at this.
Create
and tell me if
stress.
you know somebody who's been like this in your life. A narcissist, because of this needing to feel on top, they treat others, human beings, possibly yourself, almost like you're an object and something that they possess, something that they can control. And it's like, that's where this kind of manipulation comes in. Codependency comes from this because the victim starts to think, the one who's, kind of feeling inferior starts to go, I better be inferior. I know this feeling. I've been there. I better be inferior to keep my, quote unquote master, who, whatever that relationship is, to keep that person feeling superior, because when they're feeling superior, it's calm.
And a narcissist is good at manipulating you into feeling like you should be doing that because of something else. They'll use like that mind Jedi to make you feel like you should actually be inferior because of something.
Yeah.
They'll manipulate your mind.
They'll manipulate in a way that's almost like, I'm going to tell you these things about you. You're doing the right thing, or you're this or you're that. They'll make you feel just good enough to keep you where they want you.
You're not. So let me manipulate you into thinking that I'm actually trying to help you when I'm really just trying to hold you down.
Right. So
those darn narcissists.
And the thing is that this comes from, what's important to understand is this comes from a low self-esteem. I'm sure you probably know that, but you might not know that. Remember, as the definition says, it's a grandiose feeling, which isn't reality. It's not that they're actually feeling this way deep down about themselves. It really does come from a low self-esteem. And so that's why when attention goes to someone else, they just don't like it. I mean, this can happen, oftentimes it can get really heated up when a couple has a child, their first child together, and the child is getting attention. And the narcissist is like, hold up.
And how do you control?
Hold up.
How do you control it?
Where did my attention go?
A toddler.
Right. And so this final piece here, not final, I mean, there's some other things, but a narcissist actually enjoys hurting others or taking away what they want or need. And this comes by hurtful words. Essentially, what they're doing is playing a mind game with the intent of hurting you, because they feel entitled to awarding rewards and punishment because it makes them feel superior and in control. So what they're doing here basically is making their victim remember who is in charge, and you need to stay in line. So if you start to, I know this experience, if you start to voice, like, you know what, I'm going to have the courage to say something about this situation because I believe it's wrong, or I don't like what's happening in this relationship.
Or I feel controlled.
Yes.
I don't like the stress.
Yes.
A narcissist literally thinks that they are better than you.
They will shut you down. They will shut you down. They want you to remember who is in charge. Oh, you thought you could have an opinion here. You thought you could have a voice. Even even if on some level they know that you're right and probably like, okay, yeah, they will immediately shift that and turn that. A narcissist is somebody who, if let's give an example, if somebody does something bad to you or horrible to you, you're like, that I don't like that. That's rude. And you want to voice your opinion. You want to say something. A narcissist goes, you know what? I'm going to come back tenfold. They've got to come back like, I will make you pay for your mistake. They don't just accept an apology, accept, you know what? Yeah, okay, I understand.
Or actually go, you know what? I feel bad for the way that you feel.
Yeah.
I truly feel bad. I have empathy for the situation. And I'm
Yes.
sorry that you were driven to that.
Right.
I agree. I can feel that.
So here's a classic sign of a narcissist is if they've done something wrong and they will repeat it. Here's the thing. They will do something hurtful. And if you tell them that hurt you, a normal person, like you just said, will say, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. And here's the key thing. They will then change their behaviors. They will then say, I don't want to hurt you again like I did. And so I'm going to change that behavior. A narcissist, once you forgive them, will say, okay, cool. Now I got their forgiveness. Now I know that I can do this again. And so that leads into a whole other discussion of there are certain types of people that a narcissist will attract. There are certain types of people that they are like, you are going to be my next victim. They know who to go after. Mm-hmm.
And man, I it's funny because as I think of the people in my life that have the characteristics, you don't see them coming. It's like they'll trick you.
Yeah.
You'll feel like, wow, this person has a lot of empathy. This person actually has these traits. But they're so good at manipulating you and making you think that they're a certain way when they're actually another way.
Mm-hmm.
It like creeps up. But when you look back, hindsight, it's pretty clear to go, wow, these traits were very evident, but so hard to see sometimes when you're right in the middle of it.
Yes.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to our podcast.
Yes, we appreciate you so much, and we hope you know that we support you in whatever stage you're at.
We took a leap here, sharing our mistakes and wins with you.
Yeah, we're getting pretty vulnerable here, but we know that we've learned from those who have been brave enough to share with us, and we want to do that with you.
Hey, can you do us a favor? If you like what you hear, will you press pause and rate the podcast and write a review?
Oh, and while you're at it, share it, please.
And if you have questions, you can find us on all of our social channels.
Okay, ready to get back to it?
Let's do it.
I think something that's important in this episode, because it's hard to know, we're going to do a follow-up episode on how to deal if you are in that situation. What do you do? Because if you are in a situation with a narcissist, it is very frightening and scary to take back your control. So we're going to get to that, but it's a whole other episode. What I did want to talk about though is the characters, the type of characters or the type of personalities that they look for and that attract a narcissist. And when I heard this, and I got this from Dr. Ramini, and actually we're going to have this posted in our show notes. So you can follow her on YouTube. She is like the queen of narcissism. She is not a narcissist, but she's the queen. She's an incredible doctor, been featured in if you look her up, if you go to the link that we post, you will learn so many things because she talks about how to know if you're in a relationship with a narcissist. She talks about this type of stuff, the traits. And then she also does talk about what can you do to gain back control. But one of the things that I had learned, and I'm only going to mention a few that I can remember, was the type of personality traits that they go after. And I was like, oh, holy cow. I actually thought about you too, not to like throw you under the bus, but I was like, these are I've seen both of us do this. They will go for the person that is forgiving, really forgiving, the person that will forgive over and over again for the same thing. So Mike and I have talked about boundaries a lot in our episodes. And I know it took me a long time to really define boundaries. And sometimes I still have to do that. I know it took you even longer than me. And sometimes still you try to define certain boundaries in different relationships in your life. And doing it for our, immediate family with exes has been super helpful. And I know that, there's even work relationships or friendships or things that you start to go, okay, I have to define boundaries in order to lessen any drama. And what I've noticed is in looking back, I'm like, gosh, you especially are definitely a very forgiving person. I mean, even today, I could talk about somebody who has definitely betrayed a friendship, who has betrayed trust that you have given. And we even had this conversation just days ago. And you were like, I think I would still forgive that person if they came back and apologized. And that's where I was kind of like, oh, but that is the victim of a narcissist, because they know that you will do that because and it's because you have a kind heart. You know what I mean? And I'm like, is it okay that I'm saying this?
Yeah, it's okay.
I mean, I'm just trying to be real because I think that people listening will be like, that's me too. And that is the thing, is that they can come back and say, I'm so sorry, and be so genuine about it. But that is part of the manipulation, because they know that you have this soft spot. And okay, good, I got it. And now I'm not going to change the behavior, because now I know I've still got this person that I can go back to. And so in our relationship, that's happened to me too, where Mike's looked out for me and he's like, hey, don't get taken advantage of again by that person. I'm like, because sometimes you don't see it yourself. And so, to have that partner that sees it, it's like, okay, you're right. And you want to defend because you want to be that kind person and you want to be forgiving. And you're like, oh, innately people are good. Come on. They deserve a second chance. So that was one trait. Another one was that you are very empathetic. So the opposite of the narcissist is that you are empathic. And, early on in relationships with a narcissist, one of the traits of a narcissist, Dr. Ramini talks about this, is that they have a very strong woe is me story. Like early on, they're telling you, I'm a victim of this, I'm a victim of that. And they have the whole, my upbringing, my this, my that. They do all of the things to make you go, oh my gosh, I feel so sorry for you.
And because of the empathy that you have,
yes.
Like if you're an empathetic person, you go into, I can save this person.
Mm-hmm.
I can help them. I can do good things for them. Right?
Yes.
And it drives that. So like, as you're trying to determine, right? So like, what are some of the traits for somebody that a narcissist looks for, is somebody that is willing to give to them, to help save them, that is willing to try to do those things because they know they can actually then take those things, manipulate the situation, and force you into being somebody that now is like being controlled by a narcissist.
So one of her other ones was the victim is somebody who saves and rescues. And it's funny because she was talking about these and I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to be one of these. And then I felt like you and me, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, are we all of these? Are we just like, what? Rescuing somebody who needs help over and over and over again.
Like I'm sitting here right now thinking about it. I'm like, holy crap, I'm such a sucker.
No, and it's not, and that's the thing. Don't feel, it's more about being aware of it, because I would never want you to change. I don't want to change in terms of having empathy. I think that's one of the greatest things ever, is to have empathy. But, really looking and going, oh my gosh, that's true. Like think of the relationship, whatever type of relationship it was with a narcissist. And could it have been that type where you were just like, I'm going to rescue you. I
got locked in because I thought I was doing something good and that there'd be real appreciation, that there would be a real mutual respect and, give and take, because look, in life, sometimes you need someone to give to you, right? Sometimes
absolutely,
it's all good to give, but a narcissist wants to have you give and then shift that into control to hold you down, to push them up.
Right. They need you to be soft and
so don't stop giving.
No, right? It's not about stop giving.
Don't be the person that says, hey, you know what? I'm not going to help you when you're down. Just make sure you're just not doing it to a narcissist.
Right.
that's trying to shift that back on top of you to like gain control.
One of the other ones was lending money frequently. Another Mike's rolling his eyes.
Oh boy.
Well, it's like, they will know. And now this is different. Like I'm not trying to say like, oh, if you're doing something kind for a friend, or if you are trying to help. And again, like you said, there's a difference between giving and helping. Then there's a difference between that and rescuing and consistently doing the same things over and over again. Are you forgiving the same thing over and over again? Are you constantly lending money to that person over and over again with the promise of I'll pay you back, I'll pay you back?
Are they making you feel bad about yourself?
And if you can't give, are they making you feel bad? And also, are you constantly in this position of having to rescue and turning it into a codependent type thing?
And then if you try to push back and say, I can't, then
it's anger, and it's the
they're going to be
tenfold.
mad. There's going to be stress. There's what do you mean you can't do this for me?
And you don't care. And then it's all the negative things. Every time you try to take back control and power of yourself and your life, you will get the negative remarks and you will get the mean behaviors. So these are really like,
reminds me of the story with Rumpelstiltskin.
Oh,
right?
Tell the story. What do you?
Well, I can't get into it now. But
Okay.
If you remember the story of Rumpelstiltskin, it's a good story. You should read it to your kids.
Okay.
And I'm going to refresh because I haven't heard it since I was a kid. But just remember Rumpelstiltskin and how he throws temper tantrums when he's not in charge.
You're going to talk about it on this
Nope.
episode
I'll talk
or a
about it
different
later because
episode?
I need to get freshened up on the actual storyline.
On this episode or a different episode?
On a different episode.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So stay
Just making
tuned.
sure.
Maybe on the next one on how to deal and break away from a narcissist.
Yes.
I'll be ready to tell the story of Rumpelstiltskin.
Sweet. Okay. We are going to talk about all of that. I think that's going to be awesome. And I think there's some other stories too that I have heard as well. What I wanted to do is really just cover those traits, see what you recognize, see if you recognize the victim traits as well as the narcissism traits.
Maybe
And then
it'll
I wanted
help you to identify potentially if you're in a relationship with a narcissist. Like, is this happening to you right now? Like, do you really need to make an evaluation to say, wait a second, I'm in this situation.
And then we will next be talking about, in the follow-up episode, we will be talking about how to deal with it if you are.
How to get the control back.
How to get the control back. And
but I can't tell you this. A narcissist is in denial. They're not gonna identify that they are.
You cannot call somebody, the promise is this. I can almost 100% guarantee that if there is somebody that you believe is a narcissist and you now have gone, oh my gosh, I listened to this episode and you're totally a narcissist because these are all the things that they said and it's totally you.
Then they're going to say, I'm not a narcissist.
They're going to say,
you're the narcissist.
You're the narcissist. And that is 100% true. You cannot tell somebody who you believe is a narcissist that they are a narcissist. You just cannot do it. You will get nowhere.
Yeah.
They will not identify with it for, I think, obvious reasons that we've talked about. Before we close this episode, what I wanted to do is just to talk about really quickly, just kind of cover what some of the causes are, why this happens. And then we do have this little quiz that we found. And I believe it was, let me see if I can find it. I think it was like on one of the psychology sites, but I'm trying to get to it. But really quickly, the causes. So most people say that it is early life experiences. Most doctors and experts will say that it is early life experiences as well as environment. So there's things like one thing that I have heard, and I believe this was probably a lot of this stuff that I'm getting is from Dr. Ramini because she's just brilliant and it just made so much sense to me, was parents that try to live above, try to glorify, like, this is our life. It's so awesome. We're going to buy you the most expensive clothes. You're the best child ever. We're going to go on these super fancy vacations, even if we can't afford it. It's like, it's really going big, 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 which she explained that this was because this is
going back to the environment.
Going back to the environment. And she explained that this was part of the cause, part of the environment that can breed a narcissist because early on, they're being told that they are entitled and deserve all of these big things, whether or not it's actually the smart choice or not.
Are we raising an entire generation
Well,
of narcissists?
it's coming out a lot right now with the entitlement piece and with a lot of like, you get a trophy no matter what. And we're just going to give you whatever you want. That does breed, because if you think about it, what does a narcissist think? They do think that they are entitled to the attention. They are entitled to the power. They're entitled to all of those things. And so if early on you are teaching, you just
could be
get
raising a narcissist.
You could be raising a narcissist. Yeah. So, and she does have one of her YouTube videos that goes into that. And, what are the things that can breed a narcissist? It's not to say that the parent is bad, because most parents today are like, oh, I want the best for my kids. Or maybe they felt like they weren't getting certain things in their childhood. And so they want to make up for that and let their children have all the things that they didn't have. And, it was an eye opener to hear like, oh, wow, you could actually be raising a narcissist. It's that whole, I'm going to go to the teacher because you got a bad grade. I'm going to get mad at the teacher. Well, maybe the child didn't study hard enough or didn't take responsibility. So it's thinking about those things and what we're doing as parents. And then there's also, they perhaps were raised by narcissists themselves, and so it's something that.
And they learned the characteristics because that was either deployed on them. So now they're then repeating the habits that they've learned.
Right.
Or potentially, you get back to that whole topic, right? That whole like, are you born a narcissist? I think the answer is no. It's learned. You learn the characteristics. Like it's the environmental aspect that actually is going to lead to you becoming a narcissist. Right?
Yeah. So just in case you are listening to this and you wonder, again, I am not saying to send this episode to somebody that you think is a narcissist and say, hey, listen to this and listen to that quiz at the end that they do and see how you answer. I'm telling you not to do that. It's not
But maybe do it. Could be fun.
Do it yourself. I would
take the quiz.
I would not.
Take the quiz.
Take the quiz yourself, but do not send it to somebody else to take the quiz. This is from a site called Psycom. Pretty much the question is, do I have narcissistic personality disorder? And I think at the same time, you could look at this and answer the questions of somebody else that you might suspect is a narcissist. So there are not that many questions. There's maybe 5 here. And I will read them to you. And if you answer mostly yes to these, you'll have an idea of whether you or the person you're thinking about is a narcissist. Shall we go through them?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. The first one is, do you experience an exaggerated sense of self-importance? And
basically, it's rated on a scale of 1 to 5.
Yeah.
1 being never, 5 being very often.
Mm-hmm.
So, somewhere in that scale, you do you think that? Yes or no?
Yeah. Do you expect to be seen as superior to other people? Do you expect to be seen as superior to other people? Interesting question. Because sometimes I would think, have you ever had that feeling where there's somebody who's so down about themselves and it's like this weird battle of you have this superior feeling, or only because you feel that they feel inferior?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I get it.
And it's but you don't want to have that feeling, maybe because we have empathy. I don't know. But so I think the important word in there is expect. Do you expect to be seen as superior to other people? You should all know that I am the man, I'm it. Okay. Next one. Do you ever exaggerate your talents or accomplishments? So I have seen this. There are certain influencers, public speakers, people that I know that I would lay down a whole ton of money to say that they are a narcissist and have that personality based on how they present, where it's not so much of a, hey, I want to give some credibility or I want to show some authority here so that you can trust me, but it's a flat out, I have done this, and that. And it's so big and so huge and so exaggerated because you might know them and realize, it actually wasn't that.
It wasn't really all that.
Yeah. Or, I'm the best at this. I'm the best at that.
So do you exaggerate your talents and accomplishments?
Yes. The next one, do you require constant admiration from others? Do you require it constantly? So I think we all, like we talked about earlier in the episode, everybody loves some admiration. You know what? You like some acknowledgement for a job well done.
The key word in this is required.
But do you require
and
it?
Man, I can actually hear somebody in my mind right now about how they're prompting for it.
Yes.
It's the prompts. Did you know that
Yes.
Were you aware that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Prompts. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
I like it. Good question.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The next one. Do you engage in fantasies about being successful, powerful, or beautiful? Okay. This one to me, I was like, well, don't we all? I mean, when you have, when I talk about us doing our vision, where do we want to be a year from now? Or what's our ideal, living situation? What's our ideal retirement situation? What's our ideal family situation? I definitely engage in those fantasies, which feels like, being successful. I definitely engage in fantasies of yes, I did this with my business. I took it to this level. I reached these goals.
It's funny that they put successful, powerful, and beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Because the successful part, I totally relate to what you're saying, right? You want to strive, right? That's a measurement of being able to accomplish things.
Right.
Powerful, typically, is more of a negative thing. Because power, in my mind, it feels like you're then saying, I'm powerful because I can assert power on someone else. That's a more of a negative.
Maybe, but I still think powerful is awesome. I mean, I like to think if I'm working out, things like that make me feel powerful. And I like to feel powerful. I think the difference is it powerful because you feel in control of yourself and you can do good things and influence?
Or powerful because you can assert your power on someone else.
Exactly, which is what we talked about in the beginning. So I don't think necessarily feeling powerful, I feel like is a great thing. We like to feel empowered to do good things. But if it's power because you're trying to control other people and make them do what you want them to do, that's different because there's a difference between influencing others in a positive way and controlling them.
So try to think of that question from that standpoint.
And beautiful, heck yeah, I have fantasies all the time that I'm walking around looking like Cindy Crawford. Oh, sorry. That's a different episode. I don't know that there's fantasies about, but I enjoy feeling beautiful. I enjoy.
Well, luckily for you.
Well, I mean,
not too hard to imagine.
That's an inside feeling. It's also you know what? I enjoy when I'm like, hey, I like putting on this outfit. I like getting my hair done. I feel beautiful. I enjoy that. That might be different than earlier that we were talking about. There's the obsession with it. It's the most important thing. I must, Okay, the next one. Do you expect total compliance and special favors from others? So now I'm thinking of different relationships where it is if somebody says, this is how it's going to be, and they don't accept any type of, hey, can we come on a common ground? It's my way or the highway. This is how it's going to be.
And I expect you to help me when I need you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely see that in I could see that in work situations. Our team at the draw shop actually witnessed something like this with a client and his assistant. And it was very uncomfortable because it was that kind of, you do not have a voice here. You are just doing special favors. You are compliant with what I ask you to do. It was very uncomfortable. And, the first thing I was like, wow, I can only imagine other situations and relationships. Sorry, I was turning my head. Hopefully you could still hear that in the microphone. Do you struggle to recognize the emotions and needs of other people? That's that empathy.
That's the empathy factor. Piece, yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you struggle to recognize the emotions and needs of other people?
Have you ever noticed that, and especially if there's somebody that you think might be a narcissist, have you noticed that when somebody else is hurt or upset, that it's just kind of like, hey, suck it up. It's just kind of, there's the coffee machine going on. It's just kind of, you know what?
They'll
don't
just
don't
skim
want to
right
deal with
past.
it.
They'll
Skip right past it.
You'll be like, oh, I can tell that something is wrong. And they're just going to not ask about it.
Yeah.
They will avoid the conversation. They won't slow down. They don't have the ability to, number one, they don't want to waste their time.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part is they just don't have empathy. They'll actually pretend to be empathetic if someone else is watching, if somebody else is looking, if it will improve their stature or situation.
Mm-hmm.
But in a moment where no one else would know, or if there's no personal gain, they'll not recognize it and not engage in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, if you hurt my feelings, you did this or that. And then it's saying,
I don't think I did.
I think that maybe you're
being too sensitive.
Making that up. I think you're being too sensitive. I think, yeah, it's that type of a thing.
Is this the last question?
This is the last question. Do others perceive you as arrogant or haughty? Have you been told that before? If, or has this person that you predict might be a narcissist, have others perceived them as arrogant? That is definitely, absolutely 100% in the situations that I've been involved in. Yes, that person has been.
And that's a characteristic that from the outside perspective, they may come off as being arrogant. What is the definition of haughty?
Oh, I think it's like aloof,
like I'm too good.
Yeah, I'm too good. It's that I walk into a room and you should all be paying attention to me. It's that whole I'm superior.
Yeah. So that's the test, right?
That's not the test. This is just one of some characteristics to look at. Again, I really encourage, if you want more information on this, to visit Dr. Ramini, which will be posted. You can just YouTube her. I believe her station is
We'll just post a link to her.
We're going to post a link, but for those of you listening and want to go straight to it, Dr. Ramini, and I think she has a few channels actually. There's one called Med Circle, but the one that I follow is Dr. Doctor Ramani. Oh my gosh, have I been saying her name wrong the whole time? Ramani. Sorry, guys. Ramani.
What were you saying?
I think I kept saying Ramini. I don't know why, but Ramani. My apologies. I'd go back and re-record all of this, but we have too much good stuff. Dr. Ramani, but she's awesome.
Post the link.
We will. We'll post the link in the show notes. There's so many great things. She talks about the different types of narcissism. She talks about what a relationship looks like if you are in a relationship with a narcissist, and what an actual healthy relationship should look like. She talks about those traits of who attracts a narcissist, what you can do if you are in that situation, and a whole lot more. I would like for us to dive in on our next episode on what you can do. And especially when it's related to blended families, because there are a lot of people that we know that will say it's very hard to co-parent with my ex because he or she is a narcissist. And so that is what we will be diving into on our next episode. And what can you do, whether it's any relationship in your life, but especially.
And maybe we could look at, if you identify as a narcissist, what are some of the things you might be able to do to break that?
Yeah. I mean, there is actual, once you've actually, come to terms with, what I think I might be, there are things that you can do. Most of it is behavioral changes, because sometimes there's things that it's like, it's hard to control whether you have empathy. Can you be taught empathy? Maybe. We'd have to dive into that. We are not doctors. We are not therapists. We are none of this. We are just sharing our opinion and what information we have found.
Starting a discussion, right?
On it's really just starting a discussion
and how it affects people and the relationships that they're in.
Yeah. And to really just take a look and go, okay, maybe after listening to this episode, you might say, you know what? Maybe it's just that my ex and I weren't getting along, and maybe I've been calling him a narcissist, but really he's not. Or maybe you're saying, I never even thought about this. Maybe that's the exact reason why we have such conflict. Mm-hmm. Who knows? But hopefully you got some type of insight out of this. We look forward to diving in.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out. And I hope you enjoyed our discussion on narcissism.
Till next time.
Over and out.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Our goal is to bring you all kinds of value that will help you navigate these challenging waters of blending a family.
Reach out to us if there's something specific you want to hear.
And don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.
And if you really like it, share with someone you love.
Ooh, and be bold enough to share it with someone you don't.